This video is going to be the complete guide to everything I know about B2B cold email, from generating over $60 million in deal value for my clients. Even if you are a complete beginner, by the end of this video, you're going to have everything you need to do the same.
First of all, take a look at some of these responses that we got from cold leads. How would you like your ideal clientele, decision makers in your industry, to respond to you saying, hey, I'd be happy to connect, just from a cold email? I'll just read a couple of these. Hey, I'd love to connect and learn more about your potential offerings. Good afternoon. I'd love to chat when you have a minute. Here's my cell phone number. I hope you're well. I've got a few projects. Please call me. Here's my cell phone number. And hey, I'm not even sure if we've met, but I would like to chat and discuss exactly what you're doing. And these are coming from CEOs and directors at different firms. This is how powerful this strategy is, and this is how powerful B2B email marketing is when you do it right. So let's just start here and get this out of the way, because there's a couple of reasons why B2B email campaigns fail. First of all, they're too generic. They sound like anybody else sending a cold email to you, and they sound like they are trying to sell you. People often lead with, hey, I'm so sorry to bother, or hey, are you tired of blank? And they make it sound too salesy or too informal or sometimes too formal. There's a perfect medium, but for the most part, most people are not hitting it. They just sound generic, which immediately puts everyone's internal spam filters on. They don't even bother seeing what the rest of the email has to say. Second of all, it just takes too long to set up. An effective email campaign is like a row of dominoes, and if one of them is set up wrong, it's going to ruin the entire campaign. It's only when everything is set up perfectly and everything's working in concert that you get those results. But oftentimes, that just takes too long to learn or to set up for most people. And then the third one that nobody's willing to talk about is that their targeting's not good, or their pain point awareness isn't good. Their offer just isn't hitting the right market. In this video, I'm going to show you a fast, repeatable system that converts and addresses each of these. There's no fluff. This is just what works. So right off the bat, there's going to be tools that you want set up before you go to set up your campaign. Think of these as the building blocks before you go and start any email campaign that you want to run. You can't start unless you have all of these pieces. You're going to need an email sending tool. This is Instantly or Smartly. This is where you're going to put all your mailboxes into and manage all the campaigns at once. You wouldn't go and get 50 mailboxes and think that you're going to go and check 50 different mailboxes every single day. Instantly and Smartly take all of those mailboxes and put them into a unified dashboard so you can review the campaigns day in and day out. Then you want to get a lead database. This is where you are going to get your leads from. Apollo works, Store Leads work if you're looking for stores that are on Shopify or just e-commerce brands, and you can even enrich them with Clay. Then there's email verification tools, Million Verifier, or Never Bounce. The reason you want to use these is that even though you get emails from these lead databases, oftentimes those emails might be old or they might not work anymore because people shift jobs or they change their positions, and those records change. Million Verifier takes all of those leads and then cleans them and then gives you back the ones that are still valid. You especially want to be careful because if you just go and send to a bunch of emails that are going to bounce, then the email service providers are going to see what you're doing and they're going to shut your mailbox down. Bounce rates are bad. They make you look like spam. I always recommend having ChatGPT loaded up at all times so that you can ask it questions like making your email more concise, to getting personas and psychographics for your industry or for the roles that you're reaching out to. You can create pretty compelling copy with ChatGPT if you give it the right context about the personas that you're targeting. And then maybe most importantly is your mailboxes. This is what you are actually going to be sending from. I recommend 3 to max 5 warmed up mailboxes per domain. Warmed up being the key here, because you cannot just get a mailbox and start sending from it immediately. There's a lot of tools that do mailbox warm up. See, email service providers don't want people going and sending a bunch of emails in mass from just any mailboxes. They don't actually like these mass email campaigns, no matter how effective or how valuable they can be for the clients on both sides. So what you will want to do is use a mailbox warm up service. Instantly and Smartly provide this for free. All you'll do is link your mailbox to the warm up service tool, and they will send emails on your behalf to look like there's real interactions. Clicks, opens, replies, all of these give your mailbox a better reputation so that you can start sending cold emails on top of it. Typically, this is going to take 2 weeks. So again, this needs to be set up beforehand. And once it's set up, you're going to be ready to rock and roll. Now we're going to go with the example that you are a software company that sells a Shopify plugin for reviews for e-commerce businesses. And we're going to use that example for the rest of the video. So first things first, you want to refine your audience. You want to use GPT to help define your niche. Who makes the purchasing decisions for your ideal client profile? What size store or company would need this? Who are my competitors and why would they want to get reviews? This is going to give you the context that you need to craft your message, to maybe improve your offer, or just to understand who you should be talking to and what they care about. Let's say after that, you got chief marketing officers, director of marketing, CEO, and CROs would all be the ideal clients that you want to be reaching out to. You want to pull that list. And so you'll go to your databases. This is Apollo or Store Leads, and you will go there for leads using filters for role, for company size, and even for geography if you don't want to be going after companies in Europe, for example. Then you'll pull that list from Apollo or from Store Leads and you'll run it through Million Verifier or Never Bounce or Unbounce. It will return all of the valid emails for you, and that's where you upload it to Instantly or to Smart Lead, and you'll create your campaign in there. At this point, you'll want to plug in your email script, and so in parallel, while the verification is happening or the Store Leads or the Apollo list is being pulled, you can start to craft your message using some of the questions that you had already had answered above in number 1. And don't worry if that's confusing, because I'm going to show you exactly how to write those emails right now. So here's how you write high converting cold emails fast. So again, your example business is a Shopify plugin that helps e-com stores get more customer reviews. You want to use the same 3-part structure to help define your offer and define who it's good for. So in this case, we have the hook, the value, and the CTA. The hook is going to be a pain-oriented hook in this case. So we'll say most Shopify stores only get reviews from less than 3% of customers. The value or the solution is that our plugin turns post-purchase emails into high-converting review requests. And then the call to action is, do you want to see how it works? Your research from ChatGPT or from contextual knowledge, maybe you know the industry well, should tell you that reviews often help customers make purchase decisions. You often check reviews, you know how important they can be, so you can leverage all of this to create a compelling message. But the real hack is getting ChatGPT to tell you how to phrase that context into verbiage that is going to be useful for a chief marketing officer or a CRO or a CEO. What do they care about? How are they thinking about the problem? So here's what an example script would look like. Subject, boost reviews. Hey, first name. The pain, most Shopify brands only get reviews from less than 3% of customers. The value, we built a tool that plugs into your existing post-purchase flow and turns it into a high converting review engine. And then the call to action, do you want to take a quick look? A couple personalization tips. As always, use first name. If you can get the company name in there, make sure that it's formatted properly, or any other custom fields that you're able to draw that is relevant without sounding a little spammy. Or you can even reference store categories or pain points. So saying, hey, we help skincare brands, or a lot of skincare products really rely on reviews. Or pain points. It's notoriously difficult to compete with other skincare products without reviews. And then beyond that is just anything that you can find on the psychographics of your role, or maybe news happening in the industry. So for instance, if tariffs are a big deal right now, being able to plug that in makes it sound like you've done a little bit of research and you're not just spamming anybody that you can find with an email. The goal is not to send a bunch of emails. The goal is to get your offer in front of the right client so that it's a win-win solution. And as a bonus, you can use this GPT prompt to get even more context on your buyer persona. Write a 3-line email for a e-com tool that helps the CRO get more reviews. That'll give you some more context. You can ask it to give you 5 versions and you can go off of that. So now you've got your mailboxes, you have your lead list from Apollo, it's now been cleaned, and you have your campaign copy ready to go. So we're gonna now automate and send the emails fast. You'll first take your clean list and upload it to Instantly or Smart Lead, whichever sequencer you plan on using. Then you'll select the campaign, you'll paste in your email, and you'll set up the sending schedule. Just use basic common sense here. Send it during work hours, not on weekends. So then you'll want to activate your warm inboxes, which just means that you're going to be sending 10 to 15 emails per day per mailbox. Do not turn off warm up. Keep it on while you are sending the other emails. And then from there, you just launch the campaign and you can walk away and let it run in the background. But your job is not done. In fact, it's just started. I mean, the point of the campaign isn't just to start a campaign, it's to get replies and eventually book in calls. So here's how you manage your replies. You want to manage from your Unibox or do domain forwarding. Unibox is short for Unified Inbox, and Smartlead and Instantly both have this feature. Basically, whenever you plug in all of your mailboxes, you're not going to check every individual mailbox. So Instantly and Smartlead have a dashboard where they compile all of the responses and let you see them all at once. There's an example of what it looks like right here below, and you can see all of the responses on the left, and when you click into a message, you get the details on the right. Instantly and Smartlead both have AI features to help auto-tag replies if they are out of office, interested, need more information, or something else. And your job will be to prioritize positive replies daily. You want to be sure that you are responding as quickly as possible to positive replies. If you can respond within 15 minutes of receiving a positive reply, then you are 3 times more likely to book a meeting with that person. So here comes your daily 10-minute routine. Once you have your entire campaign set up, your job is to optimize for maximum conversions. Your daily check is going to be for replies and then for your metrics on open, click, and reply rates. For your replies, you want to see how many people are replying overall, and then you want to see how many are positive, neutral, negative, because that'll tell you if you need to adjust any copy in your campaign or if your offer is not hitting or anything else. You want to check the open, click, and reply rates to see how the actual campaign is performing. Those raw metrics will tell you quantitatively whether or not your campaign needs adjustment. The tweaks are pretty simple. If you have a low low open rate and you're tracking open rates, you need to change the subject line. If you have a low reply rate, then you need to change the offer or your call to action. And if you have a low positive reply rate, then you need to reframe your value prop. So for example, you can swap your call to action from, do you want to learn more, to want me to show you how it works, or are you available to talk this Friday? Things that might draw a different response and get them to close faster instead of leaving it open-ended. These are kinds of experiments you can run. You might redo your offer or your positioning. Instead of saying, we get more reviews, you might say, we actually double your conversion rate by implementing reviews and store authority boosters like reviews. So now you are not helping them just get reviews, you are anchoring to maybe their most important metric in their revenue. And you might even just try more personalization, maybe finding more details that you can share about the psychographics, about the types of personas that you're reaching out to, or maybe just more detail on who you're reaching out to show that you're actually doing your research before you go and reach out to them. As a reminder, personalization can be a massive lever. If you look at this campaign, this is a campaign that I set up for a client so that they could generate more investment money for their startup. Between email A, email B, and email C, can you guess which one is personalized? If you guessed email B, you would be right. Every metric is higher than either email A or email C. The open rates are higher, the reply rates are higher, but most exciting is that the positive reply rates are almost 3 times better than either email A or email C. This is how you set up and manage a $60 million B2B email campaign in just 10 minutes a day. It all comes down to one thing: personalization, personalized emails. And I'm not talking about just first name and company name in the body. I'm talking about actual hyper-personalization. Messages that speak directly to your prospects' pain points and their goals. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to write personalized B2B emails that actually convert, and show you why it's the only strategy that you should be worrying about in 2025. I'm going to show you how I launched a campaign for a client for a capital raise that had personalization like what I'm showing you right now on the screen. 3 bullet points that go in depth into what their company prioritizes and why we would be a good partner for them. If you already know you want to get this implemented for your business and you want me to run your campaigns for you, then schedule a call with me below. My link is in the description. Otherwise, let's dive into it. Most B2B emails fail because of generic templates and low relevance. They sound like every other spammer in their inbox sending the same generic message. Real personalization is your strategic edge in 2025. The message that I showed you at the top of the screen is part of a campaign that generated 24 investor conversations for a capital raise. You can see the stats below. This stuff actually works. Tell me if you would respond to this. Someone that comes into your inbox and says, hey, are you looking for X solution? Are you looking for someone to run SEO? Are you looking for someone to run paid ads? Versus if someone said, hey, I saw that you're expanding into Latin America. That's where expansion or growing pains or cost of acquisition usually shows up. This is what we did for another client. I bet we can do the same for you. Which one do you think is going to have a higher response rate? One that is a generic, hey, are you happening upon a solution? Did I happen to catch you at the right time? Or one that says, hey, I know where you're at. I understand the pain point that you're dealing with, and we dealt with the same thing for another client. I'm going to show you exactly how to tease some of this information out so that you can incorporate it in your campaign and create even more compelling copy. First of all, there's dynamic personalization at scale. There's basic personalization, and then there's what I call true personalization. Your basic personalization is things like just the name, just the company. Hey, first name, I saw you worked at company. That's helpful, but that is just table stakes. You should have that no matter what. What you want to incorporate is true personalization. This is where you try to get signals like context, timing, industry pain points, even role-specific pain points. I understand what a CRO might be dealing with at this stage of the company, or I understand what growing pains that the company as a whole might be going through that might be something I can leverage when talking to the CEO. For example, saying, hey, first name, I saw you worked at company, or how is company dealing with X? You can incorporate some more detail and say, hey, I saw that you just launched a new pricing page. A lot of teams struggle with onboarding drop-off after a pricing shift. We helped clients build a sequence to stabilize conversions. Which one do you think has more context, and which one do you think is going to generate a response from your prospect? Today, we have tools like AI and tools like Clay where we can generate personalized openers in bulk. This is an example of just one of my campaigns where I generated a couple of different personalizations. It was for that same capital raise campaign that I showed you above. You can use ChatGPT to do research on the client, to take their domain name or to take their role or to get a summary of their LinkedIn and to incorporate that into your copy. Summarize it and format it so that you can plug it in directly into a CSV like this and upload it to an email sequencer like Instantly or Smartly. We're going to go over all of that. Just stay tuned. So the question is, How do you get these kinds of insights so that you can plug them into a sheet? How do you get them in bulk? I'll show you right now. First, you're going to want to get really good at deep prospect research. So first, understand there's a framework to any cold email, to any email in general. It's going to be pain, then impact, then desire. Use this structure in each email and it will mirror the buyer's real world priorities. It's how they think about the problem that they have. So for example, hey, I noticed you're offering a free trial. Most teams lose users before they see value. That kills activation and burns ad spend. We build onboarding flows that turn early clicks into paying users. The pain, users sign up, poke around, they never come back. The impact, it hurts activation and it wastes their ad spend. And the desire, it guides users to value and boost conversions. You can provide that desire. That solution is satisfying that desire. So how do you know what to say so that you are hitting the right pain, the right impact, and the right desire? All you have to do is pull up ChatGPT and say, hey, what are common pain points for a CRO at a mid-market SaaS company? Or you can pull info from their LinkedIn, from websites, or from Crunchbase. The more information that you give ChatGPT, the more context it has to work with, the more it can create a persona and deliver more accurate results. It can tell you more about the psychology of the buyer with the more information you give it. That's industry information, that's persona information, that's just asking it questions too. Pretend like you are this person. What do you deal with every day? Once you gather that information, you can start to craft an email like this. A lot of software as a service teams, SaaS teams, hit a wall converting free users to paid. We helped another CRO or chief revenue officer turn that around by redesigning their onboarding to drive value faster. Trial upgrades more than doubled, and their CAC, or client acquisition cost, dropped by half. Would it be helpful to see how that worked? When you implement the personas and the psychology of the buyer that you're trying to target, it becomes a lot more effective. This email wins because it speaks directly to the core revenue KPIs the CRO is accountable for. It uses industry-specific context. It has industry-specific jargon, SaaS, trial flow, cost of acquisition, to signal relevance and to signal your own expertise. When you are using the jargon they use, it automatically signals your authority in the space. And then it frames the solution in outcome terms, doubling upgrades, not just features. So this is stuff that the CRO is already trying to manage. If you are an expert in the solution that they are trying to reach, you are going to sell them. Very simple. Just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, write me 3 bullet points about what CROs of SaaS companies have to deal with. And then just keep asking it questions until you feel like you've developed the personas and you understand what a CRO might be thinking and what they might be worried about and where you can insert your solution. Now, this is where we dig in. It's multi-layered personalization. This is where you can craft messages that actually feel like they were written specifically for them. Not just the role type or the industry type, but that person specifically. You want to use AI enrichment tools to gather product launches, role-specific context, competitor mentions, clear values aligned to their business goals, or just to understand what the business's core priorities are. What are their strategic initiatives? Any press releases, whatever you can gather, AI can summarize it. Once you have a list of the companies or the personas that you want to go after, you can plug it into ChatGPT and tell it exactly what you want it to deliver line by line and download it straight from the tool. Here's an example of an email from that campaign using this personalization that was enriched by AI. I blocked out anything that had to do with the client or what we were raising for because that's proprietary information, and I would do the same for you. You better believe it. But here's the part where I personalized. Hey, Kathy, we think you'd make a great partner in the raise for the following reasons. Your experience in seed and risk capital aligns with our funding needs for its relationship intelligence tool. We are speaking directly to something that they are an expert in, and we are surfacing it. Your network and expertise in entrepreneurship can drive adoption, and your track record in boosting local economies through tech investments make you a strategic ally for job creation and innovation in our sector. It sounds like we went and did our research person by person to generate a response. Would you be open to a 15-minute call before we close this round? If you are Kathy, this is a compelling email. It's basically like somebody wrote a book report on you and is telling you that we want you for these reasons. It's the difference between a generic compliment and a thoughtful one. The prompt I used for this was so simple. I just said, write me 3 bullet points as to why they would make a good partner for our raise. Now, personalization doesn't just come in the form of dynamic fields in a sequencer like Instantly or Smartly. It also comes in the form of personalization through case studies. What you are doing when you are personalizing via case studies is you are showing that you have a service or experience that is personal to them and their solution. Your case study solves their specific problem, and you have experience in it. You're now the domain authority on it. A case study creates credibility and it eliminates skepticism, because if you can align your case study with one of their problems, then they automatically know you have already been able to solve this and you can do it for them too. And they don't have to be one-to-one. You can choose stories from similar roles, from similar industries, from similar company sizes even, and use and borrow those results into different industries. This is an incredibly effective tactic, especially when there's no prior relationship with you and that client. This is really, really important when you're doing cold email outreach. For example, if you are a mid-market SaaS company and you get an email from someone saying, hey, we helped a mid-market SaaS brand reduce churn by 27% by improving engagement touchpoints, sounds like you're at a similar stage. If you are at a similar stage and that's a metric you're trying to solve, this is going to pique your interest. And that's the power of personalization, and that's the power of personalizing through case studies. And then lastly is continuous personalization refinement. You want to constantly test and improve personalizations. Have different campaigns that have different types of personalization in them. One is a campaign that has case study personalization. One is maybe a one-line personalization. One is maybe a 3-bullet personalization. And you'll see how these data points work in the industry or the field that you are launching your campaign in. On top of that, you always want to monitor the open rates, the reply rates, and the conversion rates, because those are going to tell you the effectiveness of your campaign. But take a look at this campaign and guess which one of these variants had the personalization applied to it. If you guessed email B, you are right. Not only did it have the highest reply rate, but it had 3 times the positive reply rate as well. Simply adjusting your copy and adding personalization gets you 300% the results you were getting if you didn't. That is incredibly compelling, and this isn't even a bad campaign. This is a campaign that is already performing pretty well with high reply rates and high positive reply rates. But when you add personalization, it just supercharges it. The last thing I'm going to say about personalization is that it will not save you if you have a bad offer. In fact, it's most effective when you have an offer that is already working and you have a campaign that's already working. When you throw personalization into the mix, it's like throwing gas on the fire. Just like you can see here, email A and email C are performing in their own right, but when you add personalization and you have that variant for email B, automatically you're up 300% in performance. So that's it for personalization, and this is how you want to leverage personalization into your emails when it comes to B2B email marketing. The proof is in the pudding. I've shown you the metrics, I've shown you the copy that we've used, I've shown you the potential for using personalization when you are reaching out to your ideal clients. Below you'll see a campaign that I did for a capital raise, and you'll see that I sent about 10,000 emails a week, and each week we were setting up about 25 qualified investor meetings. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I set the system up. Everything from inboxes to scraping the list to setting up the copy so that you never have to worry about lead flow again. Let's dive right in, and let me just start by saying there's 3 reasons why cold email infrastructure beats ads or sales team. 1, it's cheaper. You don't have to spend money, first of all, hiring a new hire, but then also having to pay for the insurance that comes with it, the training that you need to have, perhaps getting a hiring coordinator to onboard them. You can simply just set the system up. 2, it's quicker because once the infrastructure is set up, you are off to the races. There's no more training needed outside of testing different angles or deciding if you want to target somebody else. And 3, it's a lot easier to manage because if you are the head of a sales team, your job is not just bringing in sales, but it's also training your reps. And when you bring on a new rep, that is the most amount of investment that you are going to have to put in to training and to getting them onboarded and to bring them up to speed. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of sales reps, especially early ones, they end up churning. When it comes to ads, you have to learn how to run the actual ad campaign. You need to get a role for creative and you need to get a role for media buying. These 2 people, if you're lucky, can be the same person, but it's a black box. You don't really understand if they're doing a good job or not. They're just spending money and results come out. How do you know if you're optimizing? How do you know if it's actually delivering? Cold email infrastructure is a lot more cut and dry because you can use it into any vertical without as much investment, and it is far easier to manage and understand. The numbers are the numbers, the qualified leads are the qualified leads. You have full visibility into the entire process. Also, the setup for email infrastructure is actually a lot more simple than you might think, because I like to think of it like dominoes. When you have all of the right dominoes lined up and they're set up correctly, once you hit the dominoes away, then they simply fall into line one after another, and they get you to your result. As long as you have the right technical setup, as long as you have the right mailboxes, as long as you have the right campaign messaging, then you simply just knock it all the way down and you get a meeting out on the other side. It's completely predictable. It's not a black box like the Facebook ads algorithm. And this is why it's such a pivotal part of the cold email outreach system, because so many teams focus on things like personalization or how much we're leveraging AI in our lists. That's important and that's a good thing, but that's like the last domino. And really, it's a small domino. It's not the one that's going to get you over over the line. If you've got great personalization, but you've got poor deliverability, it doesn't even matter. You might as well just throw your emails into spam because that's where they're going. The right setup gets you into mailboxes, which is better than most of the market even today. When it comes to scraping and verifying thousands of high intent leads, there's typically a couple places I start. First would be Apollo. If you are an enterprise and you already have access to databases like ZoomInfo, then I would use those too. But if you don't, then I would actually go to Google and I would search for databases that exist already. Sometimes it's worth just paying the investment depending on how specialized the list you're going after is. In order to do that, you got to get really specific about the types of companies that you're trying to get, as well as the titles of the people that you are trying to sell to. For that, I would go to ChatGPT and I would just simply ask and give a couple examples of the right types of businesses and then go from there. The first thing that I do when it comes to verifying large volumes of leads is simply doing a gut check by going to the source of the list, if it's Apollo or if it's ZoomInfo, wherever you're getting it, and just going through on a couple of different pages and just making sure all of the leads make sense. So for example, if you're looking for marketing CEOs or C-suite in marketing, then you go and you look at your list and you've got legal on there and CFOs, then you probably need to go back to your titles or your keywords and figure out what's giving you these wrong leads, because that's going to hurt your campaign too, sending to the wrong audience. Then I would also look into enrichments like looking for companies that have jobs up on LinkedIn. For example, if you're selling a sales tool and you see that there are companies that are posting jobs for sales roles, then you know that they might be a good fit, and those are ones that you might want to prioritize. You can do that kind of enrichment through Clay or the Derek app or a number of other scrapers or enrichment tools online. You can simply Google them. Also, when it comes to scraping leads from Apollo, I recommend Appify. I know that's a very popular one out in the market. And of course, when you are trying to build a list quickly and you want to get all of the right keywords, all the right title combinations, for example, CEO and Chief Executive Officer, or VP of Marketing and Vice President of Marketing, then I would recommend going to ChatGPT and simply just typing all of the titles that you can think of, give it the business case that you're trying to solve and the people you're trying to reach, and say, give me an exhaustive list of titles. You'll be able to plug those into whatever tool, and that's going to help your search immensely. Once you've gone to your database, you've plugged in your keywords, you've plugged in your titles, you've cleaned it up for any weird titles or weird roles that aren't supposed to be there, then you want to make sure that you clean the list properly by getting rid of bad emails. I recommend using a tool like Million Verifier or BounceBan. Those are simply going to get rid of all of the emails that you cannot send to because they are bouncing. Those are going to hurt your spam score a lot. So you want to make sure that those are not in your campaign. And if you leverage ChatGPT and use this right, then you should be able to build a list pretty quickly because you can get all of the fields you need filled fast. I'm building lists in 10, maybe 15 minutes at most, because I know the questions to ask and the parameters that I'm trying to fill. Get good at prompting with ChatGPT, ask it the questions that'll help you build your case. Okay, here's the secret sauce. This is how I send 2,000 emails a day without hitting spam. The most common thing I run into when I start talking to a business and they want to do a mass email campaign is they first tell me, yeah, I've got a couple domains and mailboxes warmed up. They're ready to go, so we should be good there. And then I ask them, how many mailboxes do you have? How many domains do you have? They go, 2, 4. Listen, you are not going to be able to send 2,000 emails on 4 domains. It just simply won't work. You're going to get flagged for spam. The most that I send from any mailbox at a time is 15 emails. So you can do the math. You want 2,000 emails a day sent, and I'm only sending 15 from a mailbox. How many mailboxes do I need to send that many? The answer is like 134. And yeah, I actually set those up. You need that many mailboxes if you want to make a dent reliably and consistently day to day to day in your TAM. When I say TAM, I mean total addressable market. Now I've got 134 mailboxes that I need to set up. And so obviously I'm also not going to do that on just one domain or 2 domains, because if that mailbox gets hit because someone reported spam or something happened, then it's going to flag the domain for spamming behavior. And that's going to ruin all the mailboxes. The most amount of mailboxes I set up for a single domain is just 3. So for 2,000 emails a day, you're going to need about 45 domains. And so this is really it. You have to go and buy a bunch of domains, and then you need to go and set up 3 mailboxes per domain. There's plenty of videos that I'm not going to go into the technical setup exactly, because you can find out, what record to put in for DNS, for SPF, and all that. But just get Google or Outlook mailboxes, keep it very simple, and you'll be able to go that way. I recommend cheap inboxes. That's a good place to start. When it comes to warm-up, your easiest answer is going to be simply getting a warm-up tool. A lot of the email sequencers have warm-up tools already, and there's a bunch out there. You can use Instantly and you can use Smartly. Those are great places to start. And what they will do is start sending emails back and forth between your mailboxes so that it looks like there's real activity going on and that there isn't about to be 2,000 cold emails going out to your ideal client. Email service providers don't want to have people sending mass campaigns. They want regular correspondence, like what you would be sending to people in your office or to your colleagues. So they'll send the exact same kind of messages like that, opening your emails, clicking on them, replying to them so that it looks real and it looks good to the ESP. I like to set it at like a 30% reply rate. I wouldn't do more than starting at 1 to 5 emails a day and ramping it up to maybe 30 or 40 at most. But just get it starting slow and ramping up to more, and leave it alone for 2 weeks. And then the real key is leave it on always. Always have it there. It's a good buffer to make sure that your mailboxes look like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing at all times. The worst thing that could happen to you is to go and set up 134 mailboxes just to have them all marked down for spam. You don't want that. So make sure that the warm-up is always going. It's protecting your score. It's making your inbox look good. Now, the most common mistakes people have with deliverability, number one is right out the gates, your DNS setup, your SPF record, your DKIM record, and your DMARC record. Most people don't know, but you can literally send screenshots of what you're missing into ChatGPT, and it will tell you exactly what to set up, what records to put in, everything. I recommend just doing that to start. Secondly, a lot of people don't know about warm-up. I just explained that. Third of all, they don't really know how many mailboxes they need to get, because most people think, okay, if I get 2 or 3 mailboxes, we're off to the races. We can send, however many emails. At scale, you need a ton of mailboxes. And then fourth, important, but maybe not the most impact, is the copy you're using. Using spammy words like free and sale and loan and the types of things that come in those actual spam emails, that's going to trigger the spam filters. It doesn't look good. Lastly, and most importantly, the best way to get awesome deliverability is to just write emails that people actually want to reply to. Have a good offer, send it to the right people with the right messaging. That simple. This is my cold email structure that actually gets replies. Most cold emails get ignored for exactly what I just said. They have a bad offer, or it's going to the wrong audience, or the messaging sucks. So let me make it very, very clear. This is exactly what I do with every single one of my clients. It's a simple 3-part structure. It's the hook, the offer, and the call to action, the CTA. A real example of an email that actually worked here. This is an email that got a response. I redacted some of the email because we don't want to give away all of our secret sauce, and I would do the same for you if you were my client. But it's very, very simple. Hey, first name, we helped a premium athletic brand grow their revenue by 161%. That's the hook. Using our marketing strategy, that's redacted, but that's the offer. And then you have the call to action. Want to see how we would do it for your brand. Something easy that they can reply to. Hey, yeah, that sounds interesting. Or sure, send over what you have. That's the kind of response that we're looking for here. Also, I just want to point out, but the tone is really, really important here too. This tone is simple and it's informal. It almost feels like an internal note. You don't need to be super formal here. You want to just sound like another colleague telling another colleague about something that's cool or something that's useful or productive. Hey, I just found this tool, it might be interesting. Why don't you take a look? That's kind of where you're going for here. And a lot of people mess up their emails by making it sound too formal and too salesy. Be very, very careful for that. Look how simple this is. Literally, there's nothing but just a couple lines to it. That's all you need. So what I love about email marketing is that the system is so reliable and consistent. You just need to rinse and repeat if you want to get the same amount of lead flow. You want to send 2,000 emails? I just told you how to do it. You want to send 4,000 emails? Just do the same thing, but multiply it by 2. It's literally that easy to scale. And then all of the copy, you just need to adjust it to go into the right industry. The system doesn't really change. You are always going to scrape your leads, you're always going to send, and you're always going to craft messaging and test it over time. The beauty is that it's simple, but it's not always easy. But once you get an angle that works or a system that works, then it becomes reliable, predictable lead flow. It's no longer a gamble. You're not throwing a bunch of money and a bunch of time into designing a creative and into an ads budget to go send it into the ether to see if anybody comes from it. You can pretty much make a couple tweaks and see what happens, and you know you're landing in the inboxes of your most qualified clients. You know you're getting exactly who you want, not targeting some random housewife in Mississippi when you were really trying to go for people that are CEOs at Fortune 500 companies. And the beauty is, this doesn't have to replace any of your channels. If you have a working paid channel, keep it. If you have a working referral channel, definitely keep it. This is only going to supplement what you already have. It's going to help your sales team. It's going to help every other channel, and it works underneath it all. So if you want to get started and build this system for yourself, the first place I would start is the infrastructure. You got to make sure that you know where you're going to get your leads from, and you got to get your mailboxes together. Plenty of resources online. We're not going to go into that in this video, probably a different one, but use what I said as guidance for setting up your infrastructure. That's how you're going to want to set it up. That's how you're going to want to structure it for reliability. All right, so I just made up a product here. It's called Brand Beacon. It's an influencer ROI tracking platform. Basically, it connects brands with influencers and uses pixel tracking and discount codes to measure the exact ROI. So if an influencer puts out a video and you're a brand and you want to understand how many purchases came from it, this company will be able to help you do that. So we need to figure out first who to target. That's through their titles, company types, and figure out what their pain points are. So first thing I'll do is I'll go here I'll take this and I'll copy it into ChatGPT. And you always want to give ChatGPT context. So I'll say something like, you are going to help me find the right positioning for my B2B email marketing campaign. You are a sales psychologist who understands buyer and seller psychology, so we can find the best pain points. Here is the product. Just copy that in there. What we need to find is, one, what companies would be interested in a tool like this that we could sell to. Two, what roles or titles could make a buying decision to purchase our tool. We'll just give it a name too. It's called Brand Beacon. And I'll just start there for now. We'll get to the pain points in a second. So we put that out there. So then we get our first output. Okay, first, ideal companies for Brand Beacon. We need companies that rely on influencer or affiliate marketing. They have enough marketing budget to care about ROI, and they're struggling with tracking. That's going to be a tougher intent to find, but I think we can find plenty of people that rely on influencer or affiliate marketing. So the top company types, and we can just kind of gut check these first. D2C brands, anybody that's advertising on TikTok Shop, this makes total sense to me. Subscription boxes are actually pretty notorious for really caring about LTV because they typically don't make any money on their first few boxes. They have to have a customer stick around. So this definitely makes sense. Beauty and cosmetic brands, they do a ton of influencers. That all makes sense there. Fitness and apparel, same thing. And then e-com brands, it gets a little bit vague here. So I like these three right here, or these top 3 or 4 right here. I think this is plenty to work with here. Then the roles to target: head of influencer marketing, VP or director of marketing, growth marketing lead manager, e-com marketing manager, and CMO and agency owner. So here's what I would actually say to this is some of these you actually already know that they can't make a buying decision. So for instance, a growth marketing lead or a manager, an e-com marketing manager, they might be able to influence the decision to buy, but they're not the ones that ultimately make the call. So what I would recommend is pushing back on this and saying, head of influencer marketing makes sense, as do VP and director and CMO. But do growth marketing lead and marketing managers get to make the buying decision? And just have them validate their thinking. If not, let's take them off the list. And can you think of any other titles? Sometimes they might be able to explain something that we may have not noticed. So let's just see. And this is kind of what I was hoping for, is obviously we're going to get the ones that we already knew were going to work, but these are some good ones that we definitely wanted to keep in. Head of brand partnerships, creator partnerships is a new one, but a director role that we might not have considered as well. These are all ones that we want to keep an eye on. So I like that. Great. Now we need to get an understanding of the buyer persona. What are they trying to fix, right? We have a solution, we know, and it probably fits here, but how are they thinking about the problem? So what we'll say, and I always like to quote the exact text. So we said, see the quoted titles. Let's dive into the buying persona for these titles. What are the issues they face regularly, day to day? What are they in charge of solving at their level? What's their mandate? Who do they report to? What do they care about fixing immediately? Please list and give a reason for each pain point with a concise description. So what they will do is they'll generate for each of the roles we talked about, what is the thing that they're running into? And we just want to review these and try to see some patterns so that we can identify what's the most important, the largest pain point. No clear ROI, wasting time on low performers, pressure to scale quickly, clunky reporting, again, lacking attribution, can't report on ROI, worried about the budget, no clear ROI, wants the team to act like a performance engine. Clients asking for proof of influencer ROI. Manual reporting is killing their time. Hard to prove ROI on partnerships, and no clear way to track post-click behavior. So there's 2 things that are coming out to me the most. It looks like everybody hates that they can't track the actual ROI from the performances. So that's the first one. I'm just going to make a note here. No clear way to track performance marketing. And then secondly is wasting time on low performing influencers. How do they get the best influencers up top? How do they know when they have influencers that aren't doing the job well? How do we... So these are good pain points to run with. So we're going to write on these 2. So here's where we're going to go. First, we're going to copy in all of the information that we just came up with. For the simplicity of this, I'm just going to say, let's set the 5 most important titles that have the most swaying power to make a buying decision. So we have VP, Director, CMO, Owner, and Head of Brand. Okay, and obviously when you're putting this into an actual database and you want to get as many titles as possible, you can ask ChatGPT to get all of the different titles and all of the different combinations. But for now, we're just going to take these because this is going to be a good enough spread. I also plugged in different company type. D2C e-com is probably going to encompass the 3 below it, but we're just listing it out so we have a clear idea of exactly the type of companies we're going after. Because the problem with D2C e-com is that while it is going to encompass beauty and skincare, it's also going to get a lot of brands that we may not want to talk to. Not every fashion brand uses influencers from maybe say TikTok or Instagram. A lot do, but a lot also don't. So we're just going for best fit. So the last thing I'll ask it is, what are people doing now, right? We know what they want. We think we have a solution that fits it, but what are we replacing? We need to know where they're coming from. So I'm going to ask it a couple questions here. How are businesses tracking influencer promotions and attributing revenue today? What tools are they using? What do they wish they had? How do they know they have high quality influencers? So here's what they're doing now is they're doing discount codes, UTM links. They have a couple affiliate platforms. That's fair. But most of the time is what I suspected is spreadsheets. And this is an easy one here, right? How do they currently judge influencer quality? It's easy to fake engagement rate. People can boost these numbers. It's hard to track. Their follower count is a vanity metric because you can't always guarantee that they'll convert just because they have a high number of followers. So the strategic opportunity for us is track every click, view, and purchase without having to have a code, and then also cut out what doesn't work. Now we know who we're talking to, so we can build our list. We know the companies we want to go for, so we know which people from what companies we want to talk to. And now we need to do the pain point. So there's a couple ways to handle this. The first one is to write out 2 different angles so that you can test the different angles next to each other. So here's the first email that I wrote. Hey, first name, saw you guys are running influencer marketing campaigns. We have a dashboard that tracks influencer content posted, likes, and attributed purchases via our pixel tracking software. Can I send you a 2-minute video on it? Now, there's a couple things I did here. Number one, I added a piece about our pixel tracking software. The reason I added that is because it gives them a little bit of context. Why are you different? What do you have? How does this work? Why hasn't this been solved before? If this is a brand new product and you are really on the forefront of solving this at scale, then they might need a little something to prove that you're not just like everybody else. But the offer is key. I didn't necessarily point out the pain. I gave them the solution. I know they want this. We have a dashboard. It tracks your content posted, likes, and attributed purchases. You can clearly tell exactly what's coming in and what's coming out from your influencer marketing. And then a very seamless CTA. Can I send you a 2-minute video on it? This is going to be our no clear way to track performance marketing angle. What this means is that anybody who cares and is frustrated by the effort and the lack of tools that go into tracking influencer marketing, this is going to speak to them. They probably have wished that they had a dashboard that they could just point to. So we are plugging in what we know is the solution, attacking it from the angle, and surfacing the features that we know they want. Then the second one, they want to surface and keep good influencers. How do I know I have good influencers? Let's go back to this and let's understand a bit more about what they're using now and what they don't like about it. So right off the bat, most of the time people are tracking with discount codes and UTM links. So this is probably what we'll want to contrast ourselves with. So I'll probably write something like this. Your first name. So I'd probably say something like this. Hey, first name, our software tracks your purchases per influencer with a pixel instead of a discount code or UTM link. We can identify your highest performing influencers with a 98% accuracy. Would you like to jump on a call and discuss? So if you are someone that is sick of being unable to tell who's actually worth the influencer spend or not, and this is going to speak to them, right? This is important to them. If they are spending a massive budget on influencers, but they don't know who's worth it and who's not because all the metrics seem like vanity metrics, this is going to sound like a solve to them, especially if they're using a discount code or UTM link, because that's what most of the people in the industry are doing. So what I did is I told them first, hey, here's what we do differently. And we called out what they're doing. It's contrasting. Then we said, we can identify your highest performing influencers with a 98% accuracy. This tells them how reliable we are. Does it work? We have something that we can stand on here. Then an easy CTA. Would you like to jump on a call and discuss? Now, when it comes to email too, I typically do some follow-up and add on a bit from what I already said. So for version A, going off of this, that we saw that they're running influencer marketing campaigns and they have a dashboard that tracks influencer content, posted likes, and attributed purchases, I would probably want to double down on this and remind them of the value prop and maybe give them another feature. So email 2 is very simple. Hey, first name, our dashboard can tell you which influencers brought in the most purchases across your entire influencer team with 98% accuracy. Can I show how it works? This is just a reminder of what we said, and they'll look at the first email, but it gives them just another nugget that they can go off of. So in the first email, we said that we have a dashboard and that we can track content, we can track posts, liked, attributed purchases. Now we're telling them, listen, what that means is that we can tell you who brought in the most purchases across your entire influencer team. That's what you care about. Remember, it sounds similar, but it's scratching two different itches. On the first side, they said that they were sick of not being able to track at all. Now we're presenting something related, but a little bit different. You can't track because you want to track so that you can figure out who's worth spending money on. So you're just telling them in email 2, hey, we can tell you who's worth spending money on. Now looking at email B. Hey, first name, our software tracks your purchases per influencer with a pixel instead of a discount code or UTM link. We can identify your highest performing influencers with a 98% accuracy. So we would say something like this. Hey, first name, we help the brand decrease CAC, which is customer acquisition cost, by 30% and 2x their revenue just by cutting spend on poorly performing influencers. Can we show how it would work for you? Now, obviously, you need these metrics to be able to say them, but if you have them, you should definitely flaunt it. And you should do the digging into their numbers to get those numbers out if you think this is going to be a powerful angle. This, again, if you're a CMO and you just saw the first email, that you have a software that tracks performance and you can identify high performers. Now we're telling them the effect of that is that you can cut the low performers and decrease your cost of acquisition and double your revenue. Very powerful. The third email is really, really basic. I usually just say something like, hey, first name. Email 3 is kind of like the breakup email. So I'll say something like, hey, are you interested in lowering your CAC this quarter, right? Just being like, hey, are you interested at all in the money? Or are you interested in all in getting this problem fixed is really a better way to say it. Because if they're not interested in getting it, or maybe they're all good and they're actually doing pretty well, this isn't relevant. You don't want to keep hitting them up. And it gives them an opportunity to say, hey, listen, we're good. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people will say, yeah, no, we're all good, but I'll keep this in mind. Thanks. So this is it, top to bottom. For Brand Beacon, an influencer ROI tracking platform, I just showed you how to find the titles that matter, get the company types you want to be targeting, and then surface the pain points, and then really what the pain behind the pain points is, right? No clear way to track performance marketing is really a revenue problem. They are trying to figure out how they can determine who the best performers are. Where do we spend our marketing dollars, right? That comes through just a little bit of work with ChatGPT and understanding your customer persona. Then I always write 2 versions of each, try 2 different angles, and then have follow-ups that complement the first one and the second one. And then last one is a third email. It's a breakup email. And this is usually where you stop emailing them. Very rarely I'll consider doing a 4th email, but that's basically it. This is how you'd write a campaign. And with the right product, this is going to generate you racks. This is how I build campaigns that generate hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you guys are interested in me running your campaigns for you, then simply book a call with me below. My link's in the description, and we can get this started immediately and get you scaling to the moon. First, you need to understand why most B2B emails get ignored. Most people are telling you that email is dead. It doesn't work as a channel anymore. Nobody answers. It's all just spam. It's just not true. There are millions of people that are sending millions of emails a day. Most of business correspondence is happening over email, still to this day. Email is far from dead. There's just a couple people that are winning at the top. So here's where the majority of email outreach is going wrong. And really, I'd summarize it in just 3 points. 1, you have the wrong offer. 2, you have the wrong audience. Or 3, you have the wrong messaging. Most of the time, I wouldn't be surprised if it was all 3. When was the last time you got an email that you looked at and you just said, this is not something I'm interested in, this is not something I've ever asked for, and this doesn't even look like a human wrote it? Most people spray and pray. They just take a guess at the message, they don't bother to research, they just throw a big enough net, and then they default to just some generic template. That's why most of what you see in your inbox looks like spam, because it is spam. Those are the players that give email marketing a bad rep. Because truth be told, this actually does work when you do have an offer that's relevant to someone and you give it to them at the time that they need it. They'll be glad that you sent them a message. So the number one thing you can do to consistently up your reply percentage is simple. Just have an offer that somebody wants. Then when you reach out to them, it's not going to be weird or unneeded or spammy because it's something that they actually want. We're going to go a little bit deeper into that. But at the end of the day, if you nail that, then you're never going to come off as spam. Do you ever complain about the ads that you get for stuff you already looked up? No, nobody ever complains about it because it's stuff that they looked up. It's stuff that they wanted. If anything, they just feel kind of guilty because it's showing up and they're tempted to buy it. That's the effect of a good email campaign. So the first part of that is building your audience list. How do you get a hyper-targeted lead list that gets replies? The number one thing that you do is you seek intent. You try to find where people are already looking for your services. And then you need to find the people that actually can make the decision to buy. So right out the gates, you want to get the right titles. That's going to be decision makers typically, unless you have some kind of product that somebody maybe less senior would be able to use and they don't need to get approval for. This is typically going to be director level, C-suite level, VP levels, that kind of senior. You should still do your due diligence and make sure that you are not getting a bunch of other unneeded contacts on your list. The reason most lists have unqualified leads is because most databases can't categorize every single person in every job and every title all the time accurately. It's a limitation that's getting better every single day, but we still have to navigate it and make sure that we are not sending emails to people that don't care about it. When I'm building my list, I typically cite for two things: authority and urgency. Once you've nailed your industry, you need to make sure that you talk to someone that has the authority to make a purchasing decision. And then even better if you can find someone who urgently needs to fix it. Authority comes from the right people in the senior positions that can make buying decisions. Pretty simple. You can go to ChatGPT and you can just ask it, hey, who can make a buying decision for X? If you have a sales tool, then you are going to need VPs of sales, directors of sales, but you wouldn't take it down to a sales manager who manages just a small team in a larger enterprise. Then you want to find people that urgently need your solution. The way you can do that is look for people that might have the intent. There's a couple ways to do this. So in the example of you have a sales tool, then you might want to start by looking at people that have a CRM that you know is old and outdated. You can find websites that report this data to you. You can reach out to them and say, hey, I have this tool. It has this feature that I know your tool doesn't have. Another one is looking at job postings. You can go and see who is looking for a sales rep or hiring for sales roles. Those are indicators that they have something they're trying to fix. Another place to look is who just got funding. If they just got funding, then they are mandated to grow. They are looking for new solutions that can get them going faster. Your solution might be a fix for them. Those are what I call true intent. And there's a difference between true intent and what I call just surface level targeting. Surface level targeting does work. Don't get me wrong. If you have a solution that helps an entire industry, then you can cast a pretty wide net and you can expect to get people in the door. The difference is that you're going to get people in all different parts of the buying decision process. You're going to get people that have no need for it at all and they just switch to another solution, and you're going to get people that are desperate for it and want you to sign up with them now. Just as important as it is to cast a wide net, it's also important to find out who are your most likely candidates and have another campaign going in parallel. Then comes the actual copy for the email. Most people way overcomplicate this and they try to get as much information and as much context as they can into those first couple lines. Your first line is probably the most important line of the email, aside from your subject line that gets them to open it. And your first line needs to quickly tell them what you do, because if it is not relevant, they are going to assume it's spam. They already don't know you. Here's where most people get it wrong, is that they think they need to address that it's a cold email first and say, hey, sorry for bothering you, or hey, yeah, it's a cold email, but don't click away. Or they go too formal, or they go way too informal. All of this stuff doesn't make any sense. If you want to cut through the noise, then the most important thing that you can do is have a great offer. If your offer is good and you're sending it to someone who needs it, then it's going to cut through the noise. So cut to the chase. It's hook, value, call to action. An example of a good first line: hey, first name, I saw that you were hiring for a sales operator role. We have a sales tool that categorizes all of your data with AI and puts it into your CRM so that reps don't mess up your data. Can I send you a quick 5-minute demo on it? You show that you understand they have a problem they're trying to fix, and then your offer is good because you understand that 1, reps are often messing up data, and 2, you have a solution to fix it. A lot of people think that you need to personalize it by saying, hey, I noticed it was your birthday, happy birthday, or oh, I noticed that the Orioles are playing this weekend. None of that stuff matters. You want to make it personal to them. You want them to care about your email. Don't waste their time. Get right to the chase and then tell them exactly what you're there for. Another one could be, hey, first name, I noticed you guys are using Klaviyo for your email marketing. We just got this popular brand to up to 20% opt-ins on their site. Do you want to see if we can do something similar for you? Really basic. Your offer must be great, and you have to obviously be sending to the right person. We're going to dig into this just a little bit more. This is the cold email structure that you're going to need. It's a 3-part flow. As I said, hook, value, and offer in CTA. I'm going to use the exact same messages that I just showed you, and we'll break it down line by line. Each of these will lead with relevance, it'll inject value, and it'll make the call to action, the CTA, frictionless. Here's the first one. Hey, first name, saw you were hiring for a sales operator role. Our sales tool categorizes data into your CRM with AI so that reps don't ruin your data quality with a 98% accuracy. Can I send you a 5-minute demo? Now you need to take a step back. If you were in the position of the sales operator and you were hiring, now you need to take a step back. If you were in the position of someone on the senior level of sales and you were hiring for a sales operator role and you were going to leverage them to fix this exact problem in your organization, is this a call that you would take? The answer is 100%. And also notice the value is the offer. A lot of people think that they need to go and they need to have case studies and they need to personalize and they need to have all of these different things. The point of all enrichment is just to make it relevant. But if you can get a good signal, you don't need to overcomplicate it. In fact, a shorter email is always going to outperform a longer email with a bunch of useless information about their wife's anniversary and that their kids have a soccer game coming up. Now, and this one's a little bit different because we injected some social proof. So, hey, first name, saw you use Klaviyo for email marketing. We did some research. This is relevant. This also gives context as to why I'm replying. Hey, I did some research on you guys. I'm not just emailing you out of the blue. Our tool is doubling the number of opt-ins from visitors on your site pop-up. That's the value. You don't need to justify it with anything else because they can make the connection. This guy is going to tell me about doubling the number of opt-ins from visitors. Now, if that's valuable to them, they will reply. And in this case, they probably would because this is a valuable offer. The unfortunate truth is that sometimes your offer may not be strong enough. That doesn't mean it won't work, but it might not be targeting enough people. Now, here's the social proof. We just got brand to 20% opt-ins from visitors. If you don't know e-commerce, this is a really, really high number. That right there gives some legitimacy to what you're saying. If anything, it kind of rehooks them and just adds some credibility to what you are doing. Now, I even want to go so far as to say that you don't even need that line. It just helps. You could just say, hey, we are doubling opt-ins. And if your offer is strong enough, people will reply. I know this from experience. But then we go to the call to action. Can I send you a free trial? That is frictionless. Of course, people are going to be okay with that. Last note on this, you'll notice that this wasn't a really long email. I didn't have a bunch of details. I didn't have personalization that told them about how I knew that the Orioles were in town or that they have a birthday coming up or that Mercury is in retrograde. All I had was the offer and a little bit of relevance and an easy call to action. Clarity will always beat cleverness. I'm not saying don't use any. It's always good to have some humor or try different angles. But just know it's not the end-all be-all. You need a strong offer to succeed. You don't need more personalization. You need a better offer. Then there's the follow-up. The follow-up sequence will double your replies. Over half my responses come from follow-ups, and I'll show you exactly what I mean in one of these examples right here. But not following up is killing your chances. Rather than telling you about why following up is so important, I'll just show you in a campaign that I actually did. Here you can see we had a pretty strong reply rate on our campaign. We had 3 variants of email A, email B, and email C, and we got 5, 2, and 3 replies on each variant. Then in the follow-up, we got 1 reply and then 2 replies on variant A and B respectively. Then we added a 3rd email and look at how many replies we got. 7. That's more than all of the replies that we got from the second step, and it's more than half of the replies we got from the first step. Keep following up. They will tell you if they don't want it. Don't spam them, and I'll tell you when to stop the campaign, but don't not follow up because they missed your first email. People are busy. They open their phone, they skim it, they don't see it. It's sometimes a good reminder to them that they see your offer and they remind themselves, oh, let me just drop them a quick note. That's why it's always good to have a frictionless CTA, something they can respond to quickly. The 3-part follow-up sequence is really, really simple. The first email is the first email, and it's the most important one because that's the one where you outline your offer. The second email can do 2 things. You can either add another value point to it, or you can provide another case study, adding credibility. Either way, you need to simply and concisely outline your value prop and then have a different CTA. So in the beginning, if you said, hey, would you like to get on a call in your first email? Then in the second one, you might want to say something like, hey, could I send you that case study? Or hey, is this something that's interesting to you? In your third one, this should be your most concise one yet. And it's very, very simple. Ask them something like, hey, is value prop doubling your opt-ins, getting better data accuracy, important or relevant to you right now? No fluff, no frills. That's it. That's all you really need. Typically after that, I would stop following up because at some level, if they haven't responded yet, then they probably aren't interested. Sometimes they honestly haven't seen it or they get caught up and it's never a good time. But but you can always get that lead list and you can recycle it again, just as long as you refresh it and make sure that you're talking to the right people and they haven't moved jobs. And then last but not least, once you've launched your campaign, how do you optimize it? How do you make sure that it's performing up to snuff? There's only a couple metrics that you really need to track that tell you how things are going. The first two numbers I check are always the reply rate and the positive reply rate. If your overall reply rate is low, either you have really, really bad messaging on your offer is just bad, or, and what's usually the case, is your deliverability sucks, which means that you need to get your tech stack situated. The second one is the positive reply rate, because if you are getting replies, but you're not getting that many positive replies, then again, you need to rework your offer. Something's not landing. It means that you might be landing in mailboxes, but people aren't vibing with what you have to offer. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Some campaigns, some offers, they're just not good enough to be marketed. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Some campaigns, some offers, they might just not cut it. But for most of the time, you are going to be able to find an angle and you're going to be able to find an audience. But most of the time, you're going to be able to find an angle and an audience that want what you have to sell. So when reply rates are low, the first thing that I'll do is I'll just do a deliverability test. You can just look this up and I'll just see how I'm placing in other inboxes. There's a lot of free options for this, but you just want one that tells you how you're placing into SMTP and Yahoo and Google and Outlook and Office 365 and Google Workspace, the whole 9 yards. The other thing that I always do is wait. The most common mistake that I see when we launch a campaign is not giving it enough time. If you go and send a campaign out and it's been a couple days and you get results or you don't get results, that's not enough time to see how it's actually going to perform. You need to give it at least a week or so. You need to get all of your follow-ups sent out. Once you see those results after a couple of weeks, I start to tweak things. And the one thing I always do whenever I write a campaign and I launch it, after I've given enough time, once I've reviewed all the other metrics, assuming the technical setup is right, is I'll review the copy, and if anything, I'll just make it simpler. And if I need to make it simpler or I need to change offers, I go to ChatGPT and I ask them very simply, here's my product, here's who I'm going for, tell me all of their biggest pain points and how my product can solve it. Now you have a list of different ideas as to how you could reposition your offer to land with your ideal client. This is the way to get 5% or higher response rates on your B2B email marketing campaigns. If you want me to just build and manage your campaign end to end, including the campaign strategy and copywriting, then schedule a call with me below and we'll get started immediately.
The beauty of a B2B email marketing campaign working is that it often takes just one customer to be profitable. And once you get it working and you have a winning campaign, it is just as easy to let it fly and get a ton of paying customers. But what happens when the campaign doesn't work? Let me break it down for you. First of all, if you have a reply rate that is below 1%, you need to pause the campaign and you need to take a look at what is going on. A lot of the time, if your reply rate is less than 1%, the first thing you have to check is, unfortunately, deliverability. Deliverability is just a term that summarizes how well your emails are actually placing inside the inboxes of the customers you want to reach versus landing in spam. Poor deliverability means that you are going to land in spam. Good deliverability means that you are landing in the inbox. A couple things you want to check for deliverability. Number one, you need to have your technical setup for all of your mailboxes. Your SPF, your DKIM, your DMARC records, they all need to be put for every single one of your mailboxes. Number two, you need to make sure that they've done at least 2 weeks of warm-up. If you don't know what email warm-up is, then basically the idea is that you want the email service provider to think that you are a seasoned mailbox doing regular correspondence to all of your peers. They don't often want cold email campaigns happening on their mailboxes, so they have safeguards. If you are a brand new account and you start sending hundreds of emails from that account, they're going to flag it because they're going to think this is spammy behavior. So you take 2 weeks to send regular correspondence to other mailboxes that are sending you regular correspondence, and you're clicking and engaging, and that helps build your mailbox reputation. Now you're probably thinking, do I actually need to do that all myself? The answer is no. Just look up email warm-up services. You'll see that a lot of the times email sequencers like Instantly or SmartLead offer this for free. You'll see that most of the time email sequencers like SmartLead, Instantly, and Zazu offer this for free once you put their mailbox into their sequencer. It's part of an incentive to get them to use the platform, but it absolutely works and it's absolutely necessary. Now, assuming you have the right technical setup for your mailbox, and then assuming that you've done the proper warm-up for your emails, then you have to start taking a look at things on the campaign level. The first place to look is actually not in the actual campaign, but it's in the lead list that you uploaded to the campaign. A lot of the times, people don't realize that their offer is being sent to the wrong person. If you have an offer that is about cost savings for enterprises and you are sending it to the chief product officer at a bunch of enterprises, your campaign is probably not going to do that well. However, once you find the right audience segment and the right titles for it, then you're going to have a winner. Conversely, make sure that the person you are sending your message to actually can make a decision on it. If you go and you are emailing sales reps telling them that you need to switch over to your brand new CRM, they don't have any control over that. They're not going to do it. So make sure that you go high enough up the chain so that it's relevant to the person that you are talking to. And here's the thing that most people miss is that you might actually have the right targeting, but a lot of times people simply forget to clean their lead list. So you might go and you might get your leads from a certain database, and that database will give you a bunch of emails, but you don't actually know if those emails are up to date or if they exist anymore, because a lot of times people move companies and you need to have current data. So I would recommend using a tool like Million Verifier that can actually check to make sure that these emails are legit. And if you send a message to them, that it will actually land in a mailbox because it's not deleted or gone or going to bounce. Also, if you are sending messages to a bunch of mailboxes that don't exist anymore, you're going to hurt your mailbox reputation. ESPs, email service providers, will see that and they will start to mark your mailbox as a spammy mailbox and put you in spam. Now, assuming you have your technical setup right, you've done the email warm-up, and your lead list is working, and your campaign is still not delivering, then you need to take a look at your offer. And this is where you have to do some research into the psychology of the person you're reaching out to. Assuming you've done the research and you are 100% certain that you are talking to the right person at that company, then you need to figure out why your offer is not resonating. A lot of the times, if you are getting a reply rate less than 1%, it's probably something closer to the technical side of things. You need to be reaching out to the right people, or you need to get your deliverability set up. But if it is below 1%, then it's worth taking a look at some of the campaign copy as well. Oftentimes shorter scripts work, and really pain targeted messaging works really well. When I say pain targeted messaging, I mean finding out what the pain for that customer is. Why would they want your product? What problem are they trying to solve? What is in the back of their head that they are trying to solve week in, week out for their business? Are you doing a good job of framing your problem for them? Are you telling them that they're going to have 99% reliability when really what they would want is to speed up their project timelines by 2x? It's often rare that you have good deliverability and will still get less than a 1% reply rate. If you do, there might be something else going on. But if it does get to that point, then what you want to do is make sure that you have the right messaging going to the right people. And I would recommend shorter copy. It's just better for spam filters. Then there's the positive reply rate. This is the money metric. You want to get this as high as possible, because if people are replying, that's one thing. But if people are replying positively, that's a whole nother thing entirely. You want to do your best job in getting this number to be as high as possible. Now, reply rate typically is a deliverability metric. But positive reply rate, now that has everything to do with your offer. And that is part of what we just discussed and how you position it, how you're sniffing out the pain for that person. The things that I would check for is, number one, that you're saying the right thing to the right audience. You're talking to a CFO like a CFO. You're talking to a product officer like a product officer. It helps to use industry jargon that they're familiar with. It helps to be able to identify with KPIs that they have. For example, if you talk to an e-commerce brand and you said, hey, we're here to help you scale your paid. Every e-commerce brand knows that you're talking about their paid media buying. But when you say paid, it signals that you're already well versed with their problem, their industry. You know what you're doing there. Sometimes it helps to frame the problem as well by offering some relevant information. And I say relevant because there's a difference between relevance and personalization. You can tell them that you realize that they went to Michigan and you always wanted to go to the stadium there for a sports game, but that's not going to hit as hard as telling them that, hey, I noticed you're hiring for this role, and I think I have a solution that can help you for the problem you're trying to fix by hiring that person. Obviously, you need to clean that up in your copy, but that's the psychology you need to employ. Doing those kinds of changes will help increase your positive reply rate. Every email should signal the problem that they're having, the solution that you have, and it should make sense to them what you're offering. I hate getting emails that are just convoluted, full of industry jargon that has nothing to do with anything. A long email that's abstract, that's filled with corporate platitudes is just not going to close. The reality is most people just want to be spoken to in plain English. They might go and speak out in meetings and in investor calls in the abstract corporatization, but what you need to do is make it super easy for them to understand and digest what you're offering them. So make sure that the email is clearly explaining what it is that you offer. An easy metric, an easy test to see if your email is good is simply read it and ask yourself if you would reply to it. If you wouldn't reply to it, why would they? And while the offer is going to do 80% of the pulling for your campaign, case studies speak volumes. You can oftentimes explain your offer, explain how it works, and signal that it works just by using one case study as your email. There's a million places for your B2B cold email campaign to break, but 90% of the time, it's going to be somewhere along the things that I just outlined. Make sure your setup is correct. Make sure you're talking to the right people. Make sure your offer is good and it makes sense to the people that you're reaching out to. If you nail those things, then more likely than not, you will have fixed your campaign. and you'll be getting replies. Let me tell you the number one thing that's working in 2025. It's not personalizing. Most people today in B2B email or cold email will tell you that you have to implement some kind of personalization in all of your emails to get the highest chance of success. I'm here to tell you that that is actually wrong. There's a difference between personalization and relevance, and most people mistake the two. Personalization is telling someone that you saw that they went to this college and that they live in this city and you wonder how the big monument is doing over there. Those emails suck. They reek of AI and they reek of bot language. Nobody wants to be emailed by a bot. Relevance is showing that you've done a little bit of research and you are catching them at the right time. You are helping them find an opportunity that they are looking for. If you are personalizing, but it is not relevant to them, then it doesn't matter how well you've done your research and how well you know them, because they are not going to be interested in just taking a call from some random person who happened to look at their LinkedIn. You're not an intern. People don't want to hear from you. It doesn't matter unless you make it matter to them. Sending an email that says, hey, I noticed that you guys are hiring for SDR roles. Would you guys be interested in using our insert sales tool or whatever it is that is relevant to that problem? There's a lot of inferences you can make by just leveraging some of the information that's out there. If they're hiring for a sales role, then they probably need help with sales, or they are looking to grow. You can leverage that information and say, hey, it looks like you're looking to grow. Why don't you take advantage of our paid ads offer? Why don't you take advantage of our hiring tool? Why don't you take advantage of our CRM that helps you scale your growth with an organizational background behind it? So my advice is stop trying to personalize and start making it relevant. And most of that has to do with your offer. You need to have a good offer. It needs to be relevant and you need to be talking to the right people, but this is basic stuff. I'm not going over the basic stuff here. Now, after relevance comes the actual offer and the offer positioning. The second thing that is working in cold email is short, concise offer language. If you are writing 2 or 3 paragraphs talking about how great your product is, all the features and benefits, this is what the funding was that went into it, these are the tools that are supported by, blah, 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 nobody cares. All they want to know is, do you understand their problem and what you are doing about it? And a lot of times, the way you need to frame the message is that as if you understand their problem already. It's implied that you understand the problem. For example, if you're reaching out to someone, you said, hey, my tool has 100% uptime and I can help you close deals reliably because we never go down. That is not a very compelling offer. Everybody expects your tool to work. A more compelling offer is saying, hey, we speed up deal cycles by 1 week on average by sending automated reports at the end of meetings with the strategic points that needed to be addressed for the client. Now what you're doing is presenting a value add and giving some reasoning behind it that makes sense. But again, this is all in one sentence. Quick, short formatting, that is what is working. Nobody wants the long paragraphs. You need to do a good job of packaging your offer. Most people miss the boat on that and they just write and write and write and yap and yap and yap. Personalization, random details. Nobody wants to read your email. Nobody likes emails. Make it easy for them. And then the third thing that is working in the email space right now, B2B and cold email, is volume. This is working all the time. This isn't actually just working in 2025. It's working in 2024, in 2023, and 2027. It works all the time. You need to be sending more volume. I work with a number of enterprises that will tell me, hey, yeah, we're ready to go on cold email. We're ready to rock. We've got about 4 or 5 mailboxes set up. 4 or 5 mailboxes gets you about 60 emails a day. That's 300 emails a week. That's 1,200 emails a month. You should be sending 3,000 emails a day. Volume. Your total addressable market is much bigger than 1,200 emails a month. You need more touch points. There are more people out there who might want your product. My recommendation is a couple thousand email sends a day. You just need to be sending more volume, especially if you're an established company. You got into business, your product works because you have such a large pool of potential customers. If you are only hitting 1,200 of them a month, you are never going to achieve the scale and the benefit that comes with cold email. Cold email works really well because of its scalability, because of the efficiency of being able to send, because you are creating a channel to all of your ideal customers on the most used communication medium among enterprises, email. Every time you join a company, you are getting an email. Every time you join an agency, you're getting an email. Any enterprise that is operating today in 2025 that wouldn't want to get one touch point out to every person in their total addressable market at least once a quarter is crazy. That is exactly the benefit that we are offering to enterprises today. This is what's working in the B2B email marketing space. If you want me to set up your campaign for you, go into my description and book a call with me. We'll get it set up and craft an offer that will convert for your product or your service.
If you don't know how to dial this in, then you're going to have a lead list full of people that don't care about what you're selling. They're not going to reply. They're going to hurt your domains. Your campaign will lose steam, and it might not even be your offer's fault. A good B2B email marketing campaign is made up of a series of steps that you need to follow exactly. And if one step isn't set up right, then it's going to ruin the rest of the campaign. It's like a series of dominoes. Making sure you build the right lead list is one of those dominoes. If you don't have that nailed, then your campaign is doomed to fail. You're gonna be talking to the wrong people. You're gonna be selling them stuff they don't want. You need to get this nailed. So here's the exact process for building a qualified list of actual prospects, not just people. Number one, most obvious, you need to define your ideal buyer. Who's the best fit customer to buy your product? And you need to have an understanding of your product and what problems it actually solves. You'd be surprised how many people don't have a clear understanding of what their product actually does and who it helps. You need to nail that first. An easy way to do this is to take your product, put it into ChatGPT, and then without telling it what you think it does, ask ChatGPT, what does my product do? Who does it help? ChatGPT will tell you, and it might uncover some potential use cases that you hadn't thought of before. That stuff is useful for you because that's going to tell you who you need to be targeting, and then eventually what titles you need to be targeting as well. Once you have a clear idea of what your product does and who it helps, then you can start to figure out what would make someone in that profile even more high intent. What makes them ready to buy? Are they in the middle of a transition in their business? Did they just get funding? Are they hiring for sales teams or other roles? What kind of signals or what kind of things would make them in the market for your solution? Now you have your product, the types of businesses that it helps, and potential intent signals that will tell you whether someone is more ready to purchase than others. Now you almost have your ICP, your ideal client profile, except that you haven't actually identified the people. What you need to do at this point is figure out what titles are most likely to make a buying decision for your solution. For example, if you have a solution that helps big enterprises cut costs through some accounting software, then you don't need to go to the chief product officer, but you do want to target the chief financial officer. Even the CEO would be a good target for you because those decisions are relevant to them. Again, you can go to any AI tool and give it the description of your product and who it serves, what kind of businesses, and then have it tell you which titles are most likely to make a purchasing decision. That is the best filtering mechanism to getting the wrong accounts out of the way. You don't want emails of people that are irrelevant to your campaign. And this is how you identify them. Now that you have a sense of who you should be targeting at what companies and what would make them even more high interest, you now need to figure out where to actually get those emails. A lot of people will tell you Apollo.io. And here's the truth about Apollo. The thing you really need to consider is how many contacts you're getting and how good is the quality of those emails. So for example, if you go and you get a bunch of emails from ZoomInfo, but half of them don't work anymore, a bunch of people left their companies, this is just old data, that is just as bad as having no data. In fact, it's even worse because sending to those emails is going to hurt your mailbox reputation, which means it could ruin your infrastructure for sending. Always make sure you get a list. Always make sure you clean it in Million Verifier or BounceBin. And you can always leverage other databases as well. If you have a specific niche that you're targeting that feels really, really localized, maybe it's equipment manufacturers or something, then you can find lists of equipment manufacturers on these niche databases online. Just do a little bit of research and you'll find them. Now, if you really want to maximize your lead list, then you can use tools like Clay and you can combine multiple sources of verification. So you can get your list, you can plug it into Clay, and you can do something called waterfall enrichment, which basically allows you to verify your emails with Apollo. And then for the ones that aren't registered on Apollo, you can then verify it on Hunter.io or Lead Magic, and you can continue going down the waterfall until you get as much contact information as you can from all of those enrichment sources. So now you have your ICP, now you even have your contacts, and you're now trying to figure out, how do you segment your list? Should you segment your list? What kind of personalization should you have on the actual message level? I would segment. Here's the deal. Most of the time, your offer should be relevant enough that it should be able to go to everyone. Here's the deal with segmentation. You shouldn't be sending your offer to titles that are irrelevant. Here's the deal about segmentation and personalization. You can go online and you can find all the data about someone and tell them that you really like that they went to some alma mater and that they're a fan of the Orioles. But the fact of the matter is, if it's irrelevant to whatever it is that they do in their work, they're going to ignore your email. How do you avoid generic outreach that gets ignored? People will think that personalization is the key to sounding not generic. The thing is, if you have some weird robotic LinkedIn AI generated summary of my profile, that's going to be worse than if you just told me what you're selling and I'm a relevant buyer to you. In other words, your offer should be good enough to sell on its own. That said, you might want to segment your campaigns depending on maybe different titles that you're selling to. For instance, if you're doing a campaign that goes to sales reps or sales managers at a company, then you might want to do some different messaging or maybe a different list than if you were selling to the VP or the C-suite at a company. Run them in 2 separate campaigns, track the performance separately, because at those levels of seniority, you want to see what's working and what's not. Once you've nailed your offer and you've broken it up by title and maybe seniority, that's when I would consider adding some level of personalization. There's a million ways to do this. If you really want to go and get in the nitty gritty of it, just go to Clay or find some GPT for Sheets extension that can do the same thing for you. Now, at this point, you have pretty much everything you need to start sending, but there's one thing I want to double click on because it's going to make or break your campaign. If you go and identify the right ICP and then you get the contacts from a database and you haven't cleaned the list, then you are going to ruin your campaign. When you don't clean your list, as in make sure that your emails are verified on Million Verifier or Unbounce or whatever, what happens is that you are going to start sending to emails that don't exist. Those emails will start to bounce, which means that ESPs or email service providers are going to look at your mailboxes and go, who are these spammers sending to emails that don't exist? These guys are just mass market spammers. We don't want to let them send on our platform, and they shut your domain down. Now, all of your messages are going to spam. That is not a good look. Assuming that's all set up right and you're sending to a clean list, your bounce rate shouldn't go above 4%. Anything higher than that and you're putting your domains at risk, you're going to ruin your mailboxes, which means forget this campaign. You won't be able to send any campaigns from that mailbox. And then lastly, people always ask, how often do I need to update the list? How often should I re-clean my list or get a new list? And what happens if I run out of my list? It's not like Apollo goes and gets a list of data and then it's the same stagnant data. It's constantly updating in the background. The real question you should be asking is, how long ago did you get that list from an Apollo or from a Zoom Info? The time between when you got your data pulled and when you send the campaign, that's the time you should be concerned about. Beyond that, maybe refresh the list every 90 or so days. I wouldn't do it much sooner. If you have a smaller list, that just means you need to be a lot more strategic with your campaign. That's how you build a lead list for B2B email campaigns that actually convert.